Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Welcome to Fairy Tale Access. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to author Desiree Scott. She has this really sweet look, and she's calling in from Missouri by Skype. But her book, Crescent Vendetta, tells it all. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, I loved your book. It was just, you brought us right into the heat of a conflict on the very first couple of pages. So I just wanted to keep going and find out what was going to happen. And with shapeshifters, with wolf shapeshifters, you totally did a very clever twist. So can you tell me a little bit about how you came up with this storyline and why you took it in the direction that you did?
Well, it's really funny because I write plot-based. I cannot write if I don't have an outline. And this plot and series resonated, or it was initiated by dreaming. This is a plot that I actually dreamed. That's why, having pictures of inspiration or any of that, I really didn't have any inspiration. It was all over a period of, I would say, a couple of months of dreaming. And then the plot wouldn't leave my head. So then I started putting it on paper. Now, the twist that you're talking about, which I really don't like to give spoilers.
Don't give a spoiler.
Okay. It just happened. You know how a lot of authors say is led by the characters. And for the most part, my writing is always plot-based. It's the events that transpire, and then the characters are led through me, through the plot. And when the few twists that are in there, that's where the characters actually took over and said, well, let's go this way, and I just ran with it.
Well, I thought you did a really good job. It was really scary.
Thank you.
I like the underlying tones of the right to life for the unborn. That was really well played out. The whole vendetta that's going on is just exceptionally clever and well done. And then, it's the whole horror of rape, slavery, being caged and confined. So what were some experiences that you may have had that brought you into this fold to have these as, the underlying themes? Was it something in a place you visited or traveled to?
No, I think a lot of it has to do with, I'm a big advocate of like shelters and stuff. But it really didn't have any I didn't really have any underlining experiences, or that's why when this story was brought to life, it even threw me as a writer. I've been writing since I was 16, and a lot of my originals were like old, the cowboy, 1900s. I wrote a couple of those books. I was 16, but I don't really. I grew up really normal. I could actually call myself as over sheltered. I never, had the sleepovers. My parents were always really, really overprotective when it came to that. So I was blessed in the way that I was raised. And so, again, everything was just... So a lot of it, I think, has to do with me liking the genre that I like to write in. It's paranormal. I write contemporary romance. But I think a lot of it is the books that I've read in the past. And I don't want to say I didn't take any plot from another author and put it with a twist in mine. It was just, I've always been fascinated with, those kind of plots and stuff.
Wow. Because I really wondered if you took it from the
Experience.
news or something. It was really scary, and you really were. What I really loved about the whole story is that you brought us into the frame of reference for, that victim who's taking control and is going to make her own decisions, and she's not going to let this define her life. But you did it in such a way that I could totally empathize with her. I was totally rooting for her. It's like the reason I couldn't put the book down. So what other...
That makes me feel so happy.
What other... how many books have you written altogether, I guess?
So altogether, I have the second one published. And then I'm actually working on the third. So the second one, since you read it, it's the Enforcer story. It's his top enforcer, Brian, or Brett, I'm sorry, Brett. And then the third one that I'm working on is actually Travis's sister. Mm-hmm. So they are standalone, and they're featuring a different couple for the pack. And 2 packs are entwined. So the third book is actually Travis's sister and Adrian, which is Vanessa's brother. And that's the one I'm working on currently.
Wow. But you also write other genres like paranormal or spiritual. So how many do you write at a time?
I kind of know where you're going with this. I probably work on roughly 3 to 4 books at a time, just because I get stuck. Like with the third book, I've been stuck for about a year. So when I get stuck, I switch to something else. And I'm getting ready to continue the third book just because I'm really serious about it. I work from home. I've got the time. I'm living the dream of being able to write and work and support my family. I typically work on 2 to 3 realistically at a time.
And how many children do you have?
3.
3?
I got a 5-month-old.
How do you find time?
It's hard, and I think a lot of it has to do with, a little bit of backstory is we live in a duplex, and my parents are on one side and I'm on the other side. So, and then my sister and her family, her 3 kids are behind us. So we're not in this like cult or anything, but we're all close. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it, honestly, I would have to give a shout out to my husband. I'm not a single mother, and I was before I met him. My oldest, I was a single mother when I met my husband, and my oldest was 8 at the time. And like, I was trying to do the headset and everything, because if you can hear my 5-month-old screaming in the other room, I apologize.
No, not at all.
But I think a lot of it has to do, like, I get up in the morning, and I get up between 4 or 5 in the morning, and I try to do an hour's worth of writing. Like, be plot or the actual storyline, or trying to work myself through a solution or a problem. And then I work for about 4 different clients. I work for a business coach a couple hours a morning. So about 6 to 8, I do her stuff. And then from 9 until 6, I'm answering the phones and scheduling appointments for IT or doing remotes. And then in the evening, if I'm not too tired from the computer and want to toss it out the window, I do a little bit more, like an hour or so of writing. So I haven't published anything in probably 2 years, and that's my fault, just because I'm trying to get my schedule down to where I can schedule everything in a proportion to where I'm not overwhelmed. I get easily overwhelmed.
Understandable. So tell me about the other type of genres you've written. You did say you like true crime. Have you written that? Yes,
I have, and that's one of the ones I'm actually working on. It's about I write, so I have a book published that I'm working on the second one in that series. It's the Perfect Game series. And it's about a serial killer that comes back, that escapes out of prison, and then goes and tracks her down because she was the reason why he was caught. And then I'm also working on another one that's paranormal thriller, and it's about a woman that transcends into the dying victim's body right before they die, so she feels everything. And then she wakes up covered in their wounds and blood, but no actual. But if she stays within that victim, when they die, then she could die. It's a fine line between life and death. And that honestly, and then I have another series that's actually complete, and it's actually contemporary romance with a little bit of suspense thrown in, but it's more on the sweeter side than what I'm usually known for. So
That's so
I'm all
funny.
over the place.
Yeah, because you have a really sweet look. So, Crescent Vendetta, it was really surprising.
I get that a lot just because, up until I turned about 30, I looked 18, 19. And then
You still look
everybody
at it.
tells me that they can't see me writing with what I do, especially the ones that I haven't released yet. They're even darker than Crescent Vendetta is.
Oh,
And I
really?
haven't had any experiences that would trigger those for me to write. I've normal overprotective parents.
And
It's
an,
just the stuff that I like to write.
and an overactive imagination, maybe.
Yes, I have a very, very good imagination.
Well, what about pastimes? Like, what do you enjoy doing besides, raising a family? What kind of things do you do for yourself that help you create these characters and conflicts? And world building is amazing. So, I mean, do you like nature? Because a lot of this series takes place in nature.
I love nature. I'm actually in the country. I am in Missouri, but I'm in a rural area. We lived on about 40 acres before we sold the 30 acres that were behind us. So I do live in the country. It takes us about 20 minutes to get to any town. Um, and then I live in the bottom of a valley. So like when it snows or ices, it's really hard to get out. Because on one side of us is a steep hill, and then on the other side is a longer way to the highway, but a lot of snow drifts all the time. So like we were snowed in for a good 3 days. Today is the first day that I actually get outside. But I enjoy nature. I do take walks. I like write down a lot of those ideas come from those walks. And again, it's just honestly, it's an overactive imagination. I read for the fun of it. I read paranormal, suspense, thrillers, and that's usually what I do for me, to keep my craft honed and to be able to write what I do.
It's totally, it's really astounding that you have like just this whole different jump between paranormal, true crime, shapeshifters,
I'm all
violence.
over, and
Wow, where did the violence come from? How do you research that? What kind of
I
movies do
do.
you
Okay, so
watch?
when it comes to the violence within my books, I love true crime. I love NSC, NCIS, Criminal Minds, Forensic Files. I've watched a lot of those. Um, I watch everything imaginable when it comes to true crime. I watch a lot about serial killers. Forensic Files actually puts me to sleep. That's what I go to sleep on. And my husband's like, if I didn't love you so much, I would actually be worried. I just, I'm really not a complicated person. My life's pretty boring. A traditional day for me is getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting a little writing done, then jumping right into work. It's when I have a down day, I don't know what to do with myself. It's like I've got kids running around. My nieces are coming from Oklahoma for a month, so then I'll have, five running around. So I'm always busy. I'm always doing something.
That's great. And now, what about creating these fictional worlds. Before you settled down and got married, did you travel a lot?
No, I didn't. When it comes to the the worlds and the characters, I did a lot of research, especially for Crescent Vendetta. So I probably spent a good 6 months just doing the research, and I didn't travel, but anything imaginable is on the internet. So I researched, New Mexico. I researched, down south a little bit, and then the rest is all imagination. So I I didn't even keep any of the pictures. At one time I had a whole bunch of Travis and Vanessa's area of where they lived. I had all those pictures, and then I went to look for them for this podcast, and I couldn't find them because I wanted the originals. And then I had for Adrian, Vanessa's brothers, I had those set that I kind of gleaned the information off. So even though the world's fictional and the towns are fictional and everything, it was the scenery is based off of pictures and that I saw. I'm talking about a mini vacation with my kids and my husband, and he's like, because I want to rent a cabin, and in a cabin in the woods, and he's like, well, what's the difference from that to here? First of all, I don't have my parents right next door to me,
Right.
and then second of all, it's somewhere new. It's somewhere to jumpstart me getting stuck on, because like I said, I have the third vendetta, and then there was another major plot hole thrown into that. Major. It has to do with Miranda that's in the first one. She gets her own story. So it's just these plot holes are thrown in, and I'm like, I need to get out of my house. I need to get out of my head so I can jumpstart what I need for this book.
Yeah, that was really quite the decent cliffhanger at the end, too. Thanks.
Yeah,
so you really have to work on 3, especially if 2 has that kind of cliffhanger. You're killing us.
Well, the standalone for the couples, those are concluded, but the underground fighting ring spans the whole series. And by the end of it, we can bring that down. But see, my dilemma is I don't know what the end is going to entail yet. So I think what I need to do is I need to sit down and I need to map out the underground fighting ring plot and then put the books within that. Because I've already got 2. I've got Crescent Vendetta and I got Bear's Shadow. Now, Brett is a bear, and then his mate is actually human. So, and then you go into the third one, and then you're back to the wolves. So I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to that stuff. But I love anything.
That's a unique storyline. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm really glad. I was nervous.
Well, I love the details. For most of these movies where you see shapeshifters, there's always those things you wonder about. Like, how do they get their clothes back? You covered all the bases. It was so sneakily well done.
I've always, when I've read those, I've always had the same, I've never read a book that detailed how all that transpired, or I've read a couple, but not in that much detail. And I'm like, well, I would wonder, because I did. So in a couple of the scenes, that's where I kind of slipped that into what they were doing with their clothes.
No, it made it so much more understandable, because you're always in the background, yeah. So really, what did they do? Run through town naked and get this, But
Yeah.
It was really clever the way that you wove it all in. And,
Thank you.
The Oregon mountains.
Mm-hmm. That was just... I don't know where I come up with these storylines. I really don't, especially the paranormal that I'm working on. It's a complete fantasy paranormal about a serial killer on the mountains. And that's in, I believe, Montana, if I'm not mistaken, because it's been so long since I've opened the document. But again, it's just, I don't know where I come up with these ideas. I was raised completely normal. I do not have any dark history. I was never put into those kind of situations. Just a very, very vivid imagination.
I would say that you're very good with imagination, but also drawing out these underlying themes and, making people just feel empathy for the characters or, like either that or like a kinship, like you could really understand what they were going through. They became really real, which was fantastic because,
Thank
you know, this brought you back and you're looking like, is the next one done?
The next one is done, but the third one I'm working on, and I've probably got a normal. My books range from anywhere from 50 to 60,000 words, and I will tell you that I've got 30,000 words of the third one done. So it's getting there. It's just that underlining plot that needs to be weaved into the romance plot, because there's two. There's the main plot, and then the character's love story is the secondary plot, and then you have the minor characters. They have their own little interweaved plots as well, and that's always what I've loved about the books that I read. Is it's not just, that's why I can't do first person. I like to be in everybody's head, and it's mainly just the main characters, the two main characters, and I like to even the villain, to know what he's thinking, what he's planning to a degree.
Now, you just have an incredibly flawless way of weaving in details without being, like overly detailed. Does that make sense?
Yes, I
But
started
I
out
think
with
it's
detail.
really okay.
Yes, I have my master's in English and creative writing, because I've always known that I wanted to, if not take writing to a career, then I've always wanted to invest in getting better, improving. So, yeah, I have another not a paranormal, but a romantic suspense that was my thesis for that one, and it is actually done. It just needs some heavy revisions because I wrote it in college, so I need to go back and rewrite it. But I have college, and like I said, I've done everything to hone my craft to where it is now, and then I'm always up for improving it, making it better.
How do you feel about interacting with fans? Because you
I
said
love it. I love it. I welcome all my fans to get a hold of me via Messenger, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I enjoy it, because I'm not one of those that, oh yeah, thank you, and then end it. I really enjoy interacting with anybody that's interested in interacting with me.
well, you're such a good storyteller. So,
You have made my week. Oh, not my week, my year, my years. I really I think I needed to hear that, just because the third one's got me stumped, and that's amazing. Thank you.
well, I'm sure you'll figure it out. How long does it usually take you to do a novel or finish one?
Um, so my contemporary romance series that is done, believe it or not, I wrote that on my phone, and I was done within 30 days with each one.
How many were in it?
It just three. There's three books. It's Stranded on Veil Mountain. There's Drawn to Veil Mountain, and there's Trapped on Veil Mountain. So it's based on this mountain and the snowstorms, dead bodies, stuff like that. But it really depends on how integrated and how deep the plot is. It could take anywhere from, I could be done within, a couple months to a year or more. It just depends on how detailed the plot is.
Wow, college really paid off for you.
Well, it better have. I have $180,000 in student loan debts.
Right? We all do. Misery loves company there. All right,
Yeah.
so we've got the paranormal, the romance, the thrillers. So reading, you said it was like an addiction. I understand that.
Yes. So I haven't probably read a book in a year. And that's my fault, just because, you have drug addicts, you have, alcoholics. Reading for me is an actual addiction. And I say this because when I start a book, that's all I think about. I'll let work go, I'll let my kids go, I'll let my home go, and I will just be immersed. And I'll stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning reading. And then right after I get done with that book, then I'm going, I've probably spent over $2,000 in 1 year before on ebooks. And that's really hard to do. And then it takes me physically shaking and putting the Kindle or the book down and walking away. And after a week, I'm fine. But, that's why I say it is actually an addiction.
Wow. Well, you can see how you're well read because of the way you put together your stories and the way that they flow. And they're so original. They're not like the other stories we've read about shapeshifters.
I really tried because a lot of my books were about that. In the beginning, I was worried that I was going to take bits and pieces of other stories and try to throw them into it. And because that's at the time, that's all I was reading was the paranormal shapeshifters. And I'm very happy that, there's only so many plots out there in the world. So either way, you're going to run into yours is going to be similar to a lot of other stories, but it's the twist that you put within those stories on whether you make it you or not.
No, definitely. Well, that and the landscapes,
Hmm.
the way that the whole what's it called? Not a tribe, but the whole pack is living
Yes.
close together, kind of like your home situation.
Now, I was about to say that I can see me putting me into that book is because, like I said, and before my brother was living, we have about 10 acres. My sister is literally about 50 yards behind me. And then I live on one side. My parents live on the other. I have 3 kids. My sister has 3 kids. My brother has 2. And he just moved to Oklahoma. So it's like everybody's wondering, how can you live so close to your family? I'm like, they drive me crazy. And me working from home, I swear they think that I don't do anything all day because I have my phone on do not disturb for a reason right now. And I just like, no, I work from home. I'm trying to get my stuff done, but I love my family. And I could see that entering a little bit into Crescent Vendetta and what I write because of the closeness.
No, I like the closeness of family in the book. That was really well done. It was just a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing so much about yourself and all of the genres that you are able to weave together. It's totally
Thank you.
astounding.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Until next time, keep asking questions. And if you love shapeshifters, you've seen nothing yet until you read The Crescent Vendetta. We'll see you soon.